Hi, it's Greg Hughes again. This is video number 15 now in the Quick Start video series for 90-Second Website Builder. In video 14, in the last session, we talked about creating a simple web form, and that's what this was down here. And I do mean a simple form. There's actually quite a lot more you can do with forms. You can make them extremely complex if you need to, and it's pretty easy to do. It's technically one of the more advanced things to do in 90-Second, but it's really not all that hard. In the form that we created, we just made a simple form that allows a person to come to our website and fill in name and email, click a send button, and they go to a specific page. In the meantime, the website sends us the information in the form by way of email. So that's a very simple form because it's just a way to collect information from a visitor to your website and then send them to a specific place on your website. But of course, you can do a lot more with the form than we went into. If you double click on the form area, that's this gray area where all the form objects reside. If I double click, I bring up the form properties, and you'll see that there are some things that I can do under the style tab to make it look a little better. I could add background colors and all of the things that you will have seen in other objects where you can style them. I can make a border, we can even make a shadow and whatnot. But rather than spend time doing that, because that's pretty easy for you to mess around with, let me show you a couple other things that can happen with forms. Of course, you can add more fields, more labels, more buttons, and all kinds of things that are in the form controls toolbox. That's all of these objects right here can be used in a form. But one of the things you can do is you can take a particular field, like say the email field, and set the attributes for it. Again, the style, the way it looks, and all of that. But more importantly, you can create what's called a validation. And a validation means you can validate the data in that field. So if I wanted my user to be required to provide an email address, I'd want to check this box that says data required so that that particular field has to have something in it. And in fact, I can even require a minimum number of characters just to make sure that, they give me a proper email address. And in fact, I can even require a certain data type. Up here, there's no constraints on it right now, except that data is required. But I could actually be very specific on this field and say, I need this to be an email address. And if it's not, I can type out an error message that will show if they don't fill out the form properly. So anyway, every field has this ability for you to create a validation for it. So that's one of the many things you can do in creating forms on your website. But again, it can get complex. It can be as complex or as simple as you want, frankly. And the best way to get started, like I said in the last video, is to use the form wizard, pick a template, use that, and then just go play with that and edit it the way you want it to work. But now, having said all that, I want to show you how to create what's called an autoresponder form. Many times people ask me, well, how can I capture a name on my website and have that person subscribe to my newsletter and have it automatically send that newsletter to them? That's called an autoresponder. And that's actually not your website that does that. It's an autoresponder service that does that. Now, you utilize that service in conjunction with your website, but the actual service that captures names into a database and sends your people automated follow-ups or allows you to broadcast email to them is a completely different service than your website. But those autoresponder services always make a way for you to put a capture form on your website so that you can capture names. And we're going to do that in this video, and it's very simple to do. First of all, you need to spend some time at your autoresponder service. So mine happens to be a company called Aweber. There are several. Aweber's probably the most popular. It's also, there's one called GetResponse, which is good, iContact, MailChimp. There are several of these services that all basically do the same thing, that provide you with what's called, actually it's called a sequential automated follow-up system. But that's a lot of words. We'll just call it an autoresponder because it automatically responds by email to your subscribers. So let me open up my autoresponder account, which is at Aweber, and it's in your autoresponder service that you create the form you're going to use on your website. You even design it there. It's very important that you set up everything, of course, in your autoresponder service. The part that you use in 90-Second Website Builder, that's really fast and easy. Here I am in my Aweber account. I have designed a form with their design tools, and I'm ready to put it on my website. So what do? Well, in their case, I just have to go to a step here And this is Aweber, so your autoresponder service may look a little different. They're going to let me install the form on my website. So I'm going to click this button. What I'm looking for is just some code that's called HTML code. And here it is. Now, I don't need to know what this code means or what it says, which is probably a good thing for most of us because, look, it's just a lot of code and it looks like gibberish if you don't know. But all I have to do is take this code and paste it in to 90-Second Website Builder, and I'm done. So really the work is over at the autoresponder company. What I'm going to do, since it's selected now, is I'm going to copy it and just minimize this window, and let's go back to 90-Second Website Builder. Now, I designed a form over there, and I want to put it here on my website. And this form is going to capture people's names and emails and send them my newsletter. But where do I want to put it on my website? Well, let's change some things around here. I'm going to move this down out of the way. Maybe we'll use it later in another video demo, but let's put it down there. I think I'm going to put this paragraph down here. This is the beauty of drag and drop. For some reason, capture forms always seem to work better if they're on the right-hand side over here. So that's a good spot for my form. This is going to be so easy that you might miss it. So pay attention, I guess, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to go get a tool called the HTML tool. I'm going to draw a box, and it doesn't really matter how big I draw this box, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I'm going to now double-click on this box, and remember the code that I copied from Aweber? Well, I'm now going to paste it right here. So I just right-clicked, and I'm going to go paste. So there's all that code. Again, this is basically my form from Aweber. I click OK, and I'm done. However, you'll notice you can't see the form. Well, that's because we're looking at it in design mode, and it's just HTML code. I do have to preview this to see it. So when I hit F5, I can actually see the form. This is what it will look like. Now remember I said it doesn't matter how big I draw that box where I put the HTML code. Well, the reason is because the size of this form was determined at Aweber when I designed it. And in fact, if I wanted it to be a little bit wider so it would fit this area, I would need to go back to Aweber and redesign it to be a little bit wider. If I want to change this wording, that's where I do that, over at my autoresponder account. So if I don't like this, let me close the preview now. If I don't like this, I would need to go back to Aweber and look at my form design area, whatever they call it here, and see I would need to make this bigger. So anyway, I would make the changes here, and then I would need to go back and get the fresh code right here. All I gotta do again is copy it. It's pre-selected. Go back to my HTML tool and just repaste the new code here. Make sure I overwrite this code, and I would do a paste, put in new code. So on the 90-second side of things, it's too easy. You just basically are putting in code. It's important to know how this stuff works because a lot of people confuse an autoresponder service form, this kind of a capture form, with a simple web form, a PHP web form. They aren't the same thing. They do very different things. But if you are using a service like Aweber, GetResponse, MailChimp, etc., that's how you do it. It's real easy to do. And it's a good idea for you to capture leads on your website using this tool and 90-Second Website Builder.